Okay, cool. Welcome back to the Branding Iron podcast. We've been taking a little bit of time off. Things have been pretty hectic. Very hectic, actually. So I'd like to introduce you guys to a real cool guy here, Zach Zaborny. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do, Zach? This is pretty interesting.
Sure. So I am on the autism spectrum. I have Aspergers. I was diagnosed when I was 8. And after I graduated from college, I started to get into autism advocacy, started a blog and website, had an ebook I wrote on Amazon, and have, in the last few years, worked around the world and traveled around the world talking about the benefits of employing people with autism into
Now, we met a couple of weeks ago through a mutual friend, so
Yes.
just in case people are wondering how you end up on the show, it's just serendipity and introduction, and if you just like that. So now you said you've written a book or a couple
I
books?
did, yeah.
Okay,
Wrote
cool.
a book a few years
and
ago.
we saw one of your keynotes. That was pretty cool. Yeah. Now, growing up, going back to 8,
Mm-hmm.
before the diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
were you thinking? I don't know. Were you thinking, wow, how come? Was there any indication to you internally, or were you just like, what?
I mean, back then, I just thought I was just myself. I didn't see myself as any differently. I knew I was a little quirky, but I mean, from inward, I didn't really see a difference.
Yeah.
I could tell I was probably a little quirky, but didn't really think about it too much.
Okay. And then once was that a changing event for you, or were you just like, oh, okay, well, whatever?
When I was young, when I was first diagnosed, I mean, at 8, you don't really think about medical or, that sort of thing. But as I got older, especially as I got into middle school, high school, really, at that point I went, okay, this is how it's, plays into my daily life and the impact that it has on my daily life, and also the lives of people that are around me with socialization and relationships and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm fascinated, when I meet people, and they probably find it, I don't know, maybe a bit off-putting or aggressive or whatever, but I almost attack them with questions. Like if it's a musician, I'll be like, how do you write your songs? Where do you write your songs? What do you write? And they're like, whoa, what's up with this guy? And I'm like, I'll be, 30 questions and I'll run out of questions. But if you can answer them really fast, the whole thing will be over soon. But so, the reason I do it is I just kind of try to figure out why or how or whatever, and then go, in my own head, okay, well, oh, I see, okay, well, that's interesting. Because everybody, thinks about things differently, and sometimes you can, I don't know, enlighten yourself. I don't know. So that's why I'm, pressing you on that. Now, I don't know an awful lot about the autism spectrum or whatever. Mm-hmm. What do they mean? No, I'm going to ask a lot of dumb questions. So, what do they mean when they say the autism spectrum? What is the spectrum?
So the autism spectrum, it used to be, in psychology and in the medical field, they have this thing called the DSM, and it's the diagnostic something manual. And there's been, in the course of its history, there's been 5 versions of it.
Okay.
And every few years it gets updated, and sometimes they will take out things or they will group things together for that sort of thing. With autism, when they had the DSM-5, Aspergers and autism were a separate thing, but in the DSM-5 they grouped Aspergers and autism together, and they now call it Autism Spectrum. So it ranges from when you think of the classic or traditional autism, the other side is Asperger's.
What is the difference between the two?
So with traditional autism or classic autism, you're going to have people that will have sometimes deficits with verbal communication. Sometimes they don't speak. Sometimes they speak a little bit. You're going to have some cognitive things, but the common bond they share is kind of attention to routine, also often struggles socially. Obviously, for the ones that are nonverbal or less verbal, that struggles a bit more than the ones that are verbal.
Yeah, that would be very difficult, not
yes.
being able to. And it's not like they don't want to, or right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
they can't. Their brain is
not wired that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotta be super frustrating.
Yeah. But I know that with people more classically on the spectrum who I've worked with, technology plays a big role.
Okay, so they can communicate that way now?
Yeah, technology's a big role. You see people using iPads, phones.
So they can text or type?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool, actually. Because 20, 30 years ago, that would have been a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then so it's, on the one side there's that, and then on the other side there's Asperger's?
Asperger's, yeah.
Okay. And then what is that?
So Asperger's is predominantly through social and communication. Those are the two main areas.
Okay.
You've got people that are usually very high functioning, also oftentimes tend to have a very high intelligence, and that bleeds into maybe specific areas. So you get a lot of people that are really good at, like, for instance, computers and programming and math and science is a typical one you'll see. They'll be really, really, really good at one specific area, but then they'll have social deficits, so things like understanding sarcasm, reading facial expressions, tone, filters in what they say. Those can be affected.
Now there's a lot of people that, I don't know, for whatever reason they say that, well, maybe I don't know if they're just trying to downplay in a, the intent is to not to harm, whatever, but they're like, oh, that's maybe I have some of those tendencies, just to try and soften it. But I was doing a bit of research during the week, and apparently it's not really that good of an idea to do that. Is that, like, they're kind of like, oh yeah, like I think I act a bit like that, and you're like, well, you're not a bit. You either are or you aren't, right?
Yeah, you hear a lot of people.
So kind of like making, like, I'm a bit diabetic. Like, that's not the same, right? Like,
you do hear that sometimes. I know, what was it, last year or the year before, Jerry Seinfeld came out and said he thought he was on the spectrum, and that was a big deal because he never said it before, and it was just kind of, oh, well, Seinfeld says he's on the spectrum, is that actually true? And then you'll sometimes have other people say, oh, I think I'm on the spectrum, but there's a difference between saying, oh, I think I am, versus you actually are.
So would you be like, if you think you are, you're not? Because it would be pretty obvious, wouldn't it?
I would say yes in that. If you think you are, you might not be. I think people that have been, properly diagnosed, I would say yes, of course.
Like, it'd be pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think.
And from not just recently, like your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I've seen there was a comment back in the media. I don't know. A politician had called somebody Aspergery or something. And even back then, when I wasn't as aware, I thought, well, that's a pretty mean thing to say. Not only not so much to the person who they were just trying to put down, but in general, like, using a diagnosis as a put down. I thought, wow, that's pretty stunning, right? Like, a real dick move, I thought. So I don't remember who it was or whatever. It just stuck in my mind. So now you've written and you've done, you're starting to do, or you have done a lot of, like, speaking presentations.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
So I got into that about 5 years ago. I decided that I wanted to start doing autism advocacy with speaking, and just started reaching out to random people around the country.
Was that a tough thing to I mean, even like a lot of people have a problem with public speaking. Is that tough?
No. Public
Really?
speaking has never been a thing for me. As a kid, I was always narrating our family videos.
Right on. So. That's cool. Well, that's pretty helpful then, actually. So, and now you've traveled like a fair amount to do this, or? I have.
Okay. I've been throughout the UK. I've spoken in Iceland. I've spoken in Australia. I've spoken throughout the United States.
Wow. Okay. This is a real thing for you. That's
yes.
cool. For 5 years now, you've been doing this.
Yes.
Okay. Plans for any new books? Are you in the middle of?
Maybe. I'm thinking about doing some stuff with my journeys overseas and kind of that experience of not only being someone that moved overseas, but someone on the spectrum having moved overseas, dropped into a completely different culture.
And then trying to, like, find your way around and.
Basically.
Yeah. Do you find that other, countries is it set up similar, or it's the same challenge no matter where you are, or is it worse in some places?
I think the services, it depends on what country you go to, but I mean in general, I think some of the communication and social challenges, that's every country, understanding,
Oh yeah, so you're already like, okay, so you're already kind of like foreign, so
yeah,
you're kind of on the little bit, okay, yeah, that'd be challenging though, actually, because you're already, I don't know how to describe it, but you're already kind of lost, like just, hey, I need to know where to go or how to catch the train or do whatever, and then the person who's potentially going to help you probably doesn't speak English, and now it's even harder. So I think that's now you do advocacy here in town, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just real quick for people out there, do you have like social media handles where they can contact you? Okay, just give that real quick.
It's called the Zez Connection, so the ZEZ Connection.
All right.
It's on Twitter.
Gabe will put some links at the bottom of this video.
Twitter, Facebook, I have a YouTube channel, and then of course the website, thezezconnection.com, which is my blog and my advocacy homepage.
Right on. And so when people want to reach out to you to, I don't know, for help, resources, that kind of thing, that's where you can help them with that.
Yes.
Cool. So I briefly, I watched an interesting video that kind of, I don't know, I guess maybe my mic's turned on. And so after we met and we talked a little bit about it, the very next day in my Facebook feed was a explanation, like a explainer type video of autism. And I thought, wow, like a lot of people think that's kind of creepy, and I was like, man, that was super useful. So, where was I going on that? There was something in there that was, the what I found interesting was the uniqueness of each person. So they were saying, rather than, okay, so the general, I guess, perception is, okay, people are autistic, they're good at math, or they can memorize stuff, or whatever, they're all like this. And I found it super interesting was the narrator was like, just as everybody else is different, this is the same. It's just this overall category, right? So maybe kind of explain that to people a little bit.
Yeah, so often there's a common misconception with people on the spectrum that they're you say you're on the spectrum, and everybody automatically thinks they're Rain Man.
Okay.
By default, I think. And I have to go out and tell people, no, I'm not. I don't watch Judge Wapner. I can't. I can't go to a casino and count cards. I can't. Do the toothpicks from the jar thing.
Yeah.
I don't know all the baseball statistics. I'm actually not great at math and science. I'm got higher communication. Writing was my thing. So where some people do have those
like
things,
the written word.
That was my strength. I don't know. I don't know much. I'm not great at math and science. I'm terrible at math. I took a coding class in high school and barely passed it. So I'm not by any means this data computer nerd that people may think I am.
Yeah. And then, and so other people, everybody has different skill sets, just as, okay.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting, that's a big misconception. I guess it falls, maybe Hollywood and whatever, it's easy to make the character for the movie because, that's how they do stuff, right? They make the bad guy always a certain way, they make the hero a certain way, they make the autism person the same, they deal in stereotypes, I guess. Because they don't want us to think too much, I guess. Because maybe they don't think we can think. I don't know. It's weird. But, I don't know. I digress. So, now, do you have like entrepreneurial type tendencies, or are you like more that kind of thing, or are you more behind the scenes kind of character?
I'd like to think it's a little bit of both. I'm behind the scenes and some of the advocacy work that I do about finding things and helping the brand of autism, if you will, or to promote the advocacy of highlighting the benefits. But I also think the entrepreneurial in a way. When I when I went to Australia, I actually got that job by speaking at a conference over there, and to speak at the conference was an entry fee of like $4,000, and so I said, I'm not going to just pass this off. I'm going to actually try and raise the money. I'm going to try and actually go to this. So I started a crowdfunding campaign and raised $4,500 in 3 days.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How the heck did you do that?
The power of social media, and
You're a convincing guy.
I guess so.
Because, yeah, and you'd never done a crowdfunding.
Never done anything like that. Was living in North Dakota at the time, and it happened to be April, so it was World Autism. It was Autism Awareness Month. Is April every year, and got the Fargo newspaper on board. They did a feature story on me. Got 2 of the news stations in Fargo to do stories on me. So that was pretty helpful as well.
So you went to Australia.
I did.
How was that?
Loved it. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah. Did you get to do any traveling or outside of it? What city was it in?
I was in Brisbane, which was northeast. I traveled a lot for work, and like to joke with people that every time I was pictured with an Australian landmark or a kangaroo, I was in a work shirt.
Well, like a uniform type thing?
Yeah, we had dress shirts with our logo. So I say every time I was in Sydney, I was wearing an Epic shirt, or every time I saw a kangaroo, I was in an Epic shirt.
All right, so you're doing some good branding for the company.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I don't know, sightseeing or anything like. You did a little bit of that.
I did a little bit of that. Lived close to the beach, so I was able to do that.
Was this your first time out of the country?
No.
Okay. Where did you first go out of the country?
I first went internationally, Mexico, Canada, when I was younger, but first true international. Went to Europe.
Because Canada's not that different. All my Canadian friends are going to be... They're so mad right now. We're very different. You know?
Went to Europe in 2014. Decided to backpack and just went for 3 weeks. So.
How was that?
It was great.
Like, was that a mind-bending experience, or was it just like, all right, well, I did that?
You know, the way I planned it, I was going to do a week in Dublin and then just kept hacking on countries, and actually ran out of money and called my parents and said, hey, stayed a little bit, can you guys fly me home? I was like, yeah, sure.
That's lucky.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, first backpacking experience.
Well, it sounds like you could have raised the money yourself, but you know.
yeah. This was more of a...
Do a quick crowdfund or a couple of speaking engagements and...
Yeah,
that's funny. That would have been an interesting challenge.
Yes.
Okay, now I got to raise the money to get back.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen. I don't know if it was Tim Ferriss or one of these other characters that said the really big learning thing for them was to buy a one-way ticket to Europe, and the only way to get back was to make the money to get back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be I don't know. I think it would be a fun challenge, but at the same time, if it didn't start working out too soon, you might be kind of screwed. So, travel plans. You gonna go somewhere soon?
Domestic trips the rest of the year, but I'm planning Poland next year. My family's Polish, and my father took my
probably want to go there in the summer, right?
It's late summer. My father took my grandfather for his 60th birthday, and my dad turned 60 next year. So a few years ago, I said, Dad, we're going to do this trip again, but we're going to do it with your 60th birthday. So
that's cool.
I'm trying to get that planned.
That's a cool idea. When I was 7, I went to my great-grandmother's 90th birthday in South Africa. That's where I was living at the time. When my daughter was 7, I took her to her great-grandmother's 90th. So we got to do the same, It was an interesting numbers thing, I guess. It was cool. So Poland, and then domestically, are these for speaking?
No, just for fun.
All right. Cool. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to Nashville for a concert, and then Mississippi.
What concert?
Eric Church.
Oh yeah. So you're a music fan?
I am.
All right. What genre?
I go a little bit of everything.
Okay, me too.
I think I've got about 6 concerts this year so far, and only 1 or 2 have been people I've seen previously.
What's that song by? I think it's Eric Church, where he's kind of like, he doesn't sing. He kind of talks almost through the whole song. I really like that song. I can't remember. I'm so bad with names of songs, and especially these days, right? Because you don't get to see the album or the CD and like
Sure.
look at the songs. So I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a couple like that. So.
Yeah, it just carries on and on. I think I played it for you, Gabe, that one time. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what it was. It was interesting because it didn't sound like country.
Mm.
He was just. It sounded like poetry. It's spoken word. Yeah, it was really pretty cool. What other concerts?
Saw Billy Joel.
Oh yeah,
Going to John Mayer.
John Mayer.
The Goo Goo Dolls. So kind of getting the whole cross section.
Hitting the big shows. Do you like the smaller shows as well?
I typically go for smaller shows.
Yeah. But this year's your big show.
Yeah. I said, well, I've never seen Billy Joel. He's older. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
Go say I saw him at least once and then check it off the list. So.
Yeah. I was supposed to see the Stones in May, but looks like that Mick Jagger's having heart surgery. So hopefully we make that out, right?
He's better now.
He's better?
I heard news this morning, yeah.
All right. Okay, good.
So that's good.
Yay, Mick. And what's funny is that he's the guy in the hospital, not Keith Richards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and what else? You got 6, so that's 3.
Yeah, Luke Combs, who's a new up-and-coming artist.
Yeah.
I actually flew to Amsterdam last month to see Keith Urban for the weekend.
It sounds like you like country a lot.
I do. I grew up on it, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are all,
Listen to a lot of country, listen to a bit of 90s rock.
Yeah. I get, like, one of the things that, because I like music, when I meet new people is I start again, barraging them with questions about music, right?
Mm-hmm.
20, 30 questions. Music really helps me to understand what a person, I don't know, how they tick, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as liking country music, for me, what I'm thinking is that because of the written word and the storytelling, country seems to be, I don't know if I'm wrong or right or whatever, but they rely more on the story.
They do, definitely.
Rather than, I don't know, more abstract stuff, which you would find in indie music or whatever, where you have to kind of interpret the story. This is like, hey, this is the story. It's pretty hard to miss the point here, you know. And that's also a good emotional connection.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So what else is on your radar?
Thinking about going to Tokyo for the 2020 Olympics. Been thinking about that.
Oh, when's that?
Next
2020.
summer.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I actually was supposed to go to South Korea for the Winter Games a few years ago with a friend, but we pulled out of that. But I've always been fascinated by Japan with their technology and their history and their.
And Tokyo is like 38 million people.
Yeah.
How insane would that be?
Yeah, and I love sports, so it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah. So it's in the summer. Oh, because it's the
is.
summer games. Yeah, I want to go to Japan too. My daughter's learning Japanese, so she'll be the interpreter. I don't know. I don't know a lot of Japanese, so I'm gonna need help on that. So that's on your radar. As far as your advocacy and that kind of stuff, do you have any events coming up?
At the moment, I don't.
Okay.
But they kind of a lot of things run annually. Spring's a very popular time, so we're kind of getting out of that spring season, and then in the fall things will start to kind of pick up again.
All right.
So.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming out here, Zach. We're going to be working with you more in the future. You guys might see Zach here popping in the background, behind the scenes. If you have any questions, at the bottom of this video is all of the links, and just feel free to reach out. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you,
Cheers.
Tim.